Again, my name is Vincent Gregory, and I'm a candidate for Oakland County Sheriff. I am a Marine. I served in Vietnam. I spent 30 years with the Wayne County Sheriff's Department, and during that time, after 10 years with the Sheriff's Department, working inside the jail, I was elected to Vice President of the Wayne County Sheriff Deputies Union, Local 502, which was part of the AFL-CIO and part of SEIU. We were the largest sheriff's department at that time in the state of Michigan. And then after 30 years with the sheriff's department, as I indicated, I was elected to vice president and then the president of the union. So while I was president of the union, I was able to negotiate contracts with the late Ed McNamara, Bob Ficano, and Warren Evans. And in doing so, I learned a lot about negotiations, the inner operations of the sheriff's department, and what it took to be able to come out of difficult times, because we did have some difficult times during that time, payless paydays, those kind of things. I was able to learn a lot about how to manage budgets during that time period. So as I said, I spent 30 years with the Sheriff's Department, and after 30 years, I ended up being a Oakland County Commissioner. 5 years prior to leaving the Sheriff's Department, I knew I wanted to continue to serve and help people, so I ran for Oakland County Commissioner before I left out. I got elected, and I spent 10 years as an Oakland County Commissioner. Probably the one of the most things that is memorable for me as being an Oakland County Commissioner, we had a park, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with it, but we have a park in Southfield, Catalpa Park, and that park was going to be turned into green space by, at that time, Oakland County Executive Brooks Patterson. The county owned the land. They were leasing it to the city of Southfield for $1 a year, and they said they were going to sell it to the developers because of the bad economic times. I was the county commissioner at that point, lobbied with the Board of Commissioners. I was on lobbied with the Parks Commission. I was on the board, and we got the Parks Commission to pay $750,000 to keep that land a green space. So that was when I was with the commission. After 10 years, I ran for state representative. I spent 2 years as state representative, and the one thing I can say that I did was the top vote getter for Democrats when it came to getting elected to the House during that 2-year period. And then I ended up running for a state representative. Gilda Jacobs had been the state rep. She was term limited out, so I decided to run for the state Senate seat. I ended up getting elected to the Senate. I had spent 2 years in the House on appropriations, so when I got to the Senate, at that point, the leader of the Senate, the Democratic Senate, was Gretchen Whitmer, our current governor. So at that point, Gretchen appointed me to the Appropriations Committee, and I was on the subcommittee that put together the program for Medicaid expansion. There was only 2 Democrats on that committee, and the committee consisted of about 7 Republicans, 8 Republicans, and 2 Democrats. I was one of the Democrats, and we came up with a plan, and now we have 600,000 more people with health insurance because of that. During my second term in the Senate, I ended up, one of the things that's probably one of the most memorable for me was when I got elected in the second term in the general election, I got more votes, received more votes than any other state senator in the state of Michigan, Democrat or Republican, by 10,000 votes. The reason I bring that up and the reason why I feel it's important is that in this race as Oakland County Sheriff, Oakland County is trending Democratic. And I believe that my experience in being able to get out the vote will help tremendously for Democratic candidates up and down the ticket. It's important that I will put everything I can into this race for sheriff, but along the way, we want to make sure that we make a leadership change as the President of the United States. We need to make sure this state supports our Democratic candidate for president, that we win that. But also in Oakland County, we have an opportunity to win some state rep seats. And because of my ability, I believe that I will be able to help a lot of the other Democrats along that way. So that's who I am. Why I'm running for the Oakland County Sheriff seat is prior to the pandemic exploding like it did and Black Lives Matter, I had made a decision to run based on the lack of visibility of the sheriffs in our part of the county. We hardly ever saw him. And then, so I decided I put my name in the hat. I was asked by several people to consider it, so I did. My wife and I, we prayed about it and decided to get in the race. So being in the race, we started doing some research on the current sheriff. And we found out that not only is there, we don't see a lot of the sheriff in this area, but we found out also that the sheriff has been in office for almost 20 years. And for women in the department, lieutenant seems to be the glass ceiling. There's not been a woman promoted to the position of captain in 20 years. So that's another thing that we want to rectify. Also, the third thing is community policing. Clearly, the Sheriff's Department in Oakland County has to move into a new era of policing. They can no longer stay in that same thought process that they had before. Our current sheriff doesn't believe that it's necessary to have body cams. He's written articles and it's been in the paper about his beliefs of body cams, and he doesn't think we need it. And yet body cams is transparency. It's transparency for the officer. It's transparency for the event that's going on. As a law enforcement officer, you get accused of a lot of things, and those things that can help vindicate you to show that you were doing what was right, that's a benefit for the officer. So that is, that's who I am, and those are some of the reasons why I'm running, and I want to save a little time for any questions that you might have of me.
Yeah, Denise has a question.
Hi, yes, I am wondering what you think needs to happen with Oakland County Police to make it safe for Black people to be on the road, to be conducting business, to be living their lives in Oakland County.
Well, that's a good question, and certainly it starts with the leadership of all the police agencies within Oakland County. If the leadership does not take a position that a lot of these officers that violate their own rules are not, the leadership has to indicate they will not tolerate those rogue officers, those officers doing the things that shouldn't be doing. For instance, I was driving down in Oakland County and driving in the far right-hand lane, was getting ready to make a right-hand turn, and I got pulled over, and the officer told me I was speeding. Well, there was 2 other lanes where people were driving faster than I wasn't passing me up, but he pulled me over. Now, ultimately, I didn't get a ticket. I talked to the guy and told him what I was doing, but it just seems like in a lot of the communities, you can be in an area where maybe they feel that you should be, and you can get stopped. But that begins and ends with leadership. You've got some bad apples, and the only way that you'll cure that is to make sure leadership takes a position that they won't tolerate it. And as the Oakland County Sheriff, I do believe that we would set an example of how things should be done, and that would be community policing. I think that one of the big areas, when I mention community policing, that means that you have involvement from the community, input to the police department. The police department would be a part of that. The community policing, the religious community, and the business community all would have a say-so and would judge the police department by what they see and how they see the interactions with the officers in the community. I do believe that if there was more community policing, if officers are doing a lot more walking around and getting to know the community, you wouldn't have as many issues of confrontations as you've seen in these last couple months now.